a little bit about Sean. He has a lot of dealership experience. A lot of vendors in the training side are trainers and not haven't necessarily lived or been around the dealership. I've known a lot of trainers who are amazing trainers, but they can't relate to us as humans, as people in the car business. Rob's shaking his head. He's like, "Fuck yeah!" So the biggest thing to understand with all of it is we're going to learn. Sean's a great speaker. Not only is he really tall, he also is a war vet. So thank you for your services. He has a lot of life experiences. He actually worked in a dealer in Hyundai. He was the #1 Hyundai dealership in St. Louis, the #1 in the region as a GSM, and has grown from there. He spent years working with a coaching CRM, helping develop it, helping teach it, helping making sure dealers work on it. And he wanted something better. So we decided to break out in a zone and have being called the Car Biz Coach. And if you've looked at him on LinkedIn, if you haven't followed him on LinkedIn yet, you've got to do it. His content is amazing. He gives a lot of props to a lot of people, so it'll help promote you. And it's all relevant. And a lot of people online now aren't relevant. They talk about narcissistic ways and how they've won the battle. And Sean's not like that. He does a lot of how you get better. And I think honestly, I think you really care how people improve. So without me talking anymore, I'm going to turn it over because I just want to listen to him. Sean Kelley.
Thank you. Thanks, JP. You've set the bar pretty high, my friend. Thank you for that. No, I appreciate it, guys. Guys, first off, I've never been to Canada before, so I want to tell you, Toronto's, so far what I've seen, the Loose Moose, my Airbnb, and then this place, which so far is awesome. I feel right at home. I was telling Jeremy, I was like, man, I feel like I'm in the old school Busch Stadium back in the day in St. Louis. So I didn't know you guys had baseball up here. I'm totally joking. Totally joking. No, it's a real honor. Honor to be here. I'm already, sorry, Jace, I gotta go. All right, so today what I'm gonna be talking about with you guys is training versus coaching. Do we really understand the difference? And now that JP's told you all the awesome things I've done, I'm gonna tell you how screwed up I am. So that way you can understand the journey and why we are all in this room together, and I happen to be here with you. So I was in the Army. I was a special operations sergeant, and I spent over 2 years in combat zones. My biggest fear was losing someone on my team, and as such, I studied leadership like it was the most important thing to master. I read books on it, and luckily, and thank the Lord, I was able to bring everyone home in one piece after Iraq. I actually was over across in that country prior to the war even kicking off. But I got out of the Army, and I did a great job turning into a civilian when I bought a house I couldn't afford just before the subprime mortgage crisis on one of those arm loans, and then I knocked up my fiance, and then I wrecked my car on the way to work. I was doing awesome as a civilian. I was this close to going back in the Army. I mean, I was stressed out, man. I couldn't, literally, I was behind on my wife's engagement ring payment. I was freaked out, but luckily I had wrecked my car because when I was sitting in the finance office, the man named Jeff Cash, ironically enough, says, hey, would you consider selling cars? At the time, I was working my way through college and applying for jobs at Enterprise. I just applied for a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car where I was going to make a $28,000 a year salary. I was really excited about that opportunity, which I didn't get because as I was walking in from the interview, my wife called me, honey, what are we going to do? I'm pregnant, oh my God. So needless to say, I had a hard time interviewing. But I'm sitting in the finance office, and the finance manager is like, yeah, you want to sell cars? I say, how much do you make? And he's like, oh, in a bad month, you can make $3,000. I'm like, I'm in. That's more than I made when I was in combat. Are you kidding me? So I started selling cars, and I fell in love with the showroom floor, the people, the energy. It was like all the awesome things about the military, and but without being shot at. The fast-paced business, the adrenaline of closing a deal, man. It's a lot like combat. So I loved it. Had a great manager that taught me the right way to do business, and ultimately, I just fell in love with the showroom floor. But leadership background allowed me to move up pretty quickly. And I ended up becoming the internet sales manager. I was the first auto trader, sales.com salesperson. I was talking to Kyle. I was talking to Kyle. I was the first autotrader.com salesperson in St. Louis. And really had my Joe Verde scripts, man. I was ready to rock. And you guys remember the Joe Verde scripts, man. Gosh, who's the lucky one getting the car? You're someone you know. got it down. So anyway, I then became a finance manager, became a used car manager, and then ultimately became a GSM. And as a GSM, I failed miserably. And what I mean by that is I failed because I had the industry average over the industry average turnover in the USA down there, South America, we'll call it that for now. We had 90% turnover at my dealership, and the average is about 70%. Every time I lost a salesperson, and I loved my salespeople, I would do anything to try to help them. I would train them, I would try to motivate them, but I still had over the industry average turnover, 90%. And I thought to myself, man, every time I lose a salesman, I feel like I'm losing a soldier in combat. There's got to be a way to stop it. And I knew we were always #1 in St. Louis, but we were spending exorbitant amounts of money to be #1 in St. Louis. Just crazy marketing money and all that. And I was like, what? There's got to be a better way. And I knew, just like Barrie was talking about disruption, I was like, there's got to be a way to disrupt my business to do a better job. And one day, I'm sitting in there, and literally, I'm sitting in a sales, I just gave a sales meeting, and I'm sitting next to the owner of my company who sat in, and he goes, Sean, you should learn about coaching. And I was like, what's that? Is that when you yell at one person instead of everyone? I was in the Army. I mean, come on, we yell, tell, and then in the car business, what do? We sell, right? So as a leader, most leaders in the auto industry, we're always yelling, telling, and selling, trying to get our point across, and it's freaking exhausting, right? We tell people what to do, they don't do it. We ask them to do it nicely, they don't do it. We yell at them, they still don't do it, right? And then we keep them. Why? Because it's hard to find good people. It's hard to find good people, right? So to Barrie's point, to talk about change, okay, I do want to tell you guys that I completely agree with everything he said, and this is about change here. So the change I made was when the owner said, you should learn about coaching, and I said, you know what, I'm going to learn about coaching and see what that's all about. So I started studying coaching. Within 3 months of failing as a coach, literally 3 months of me trying to coach my salesmen, like, Sean, what are we doing? Do we really have to do this? And I'm like, there's something here, I just don't get it. But I was like, you know what, I'm just not good enough yet. So I hired myself a coach. I hired a guy named Keith Rosen. He's one of the top coaches in the world. And basically Keith had trained me how to coach. I started then coaching my team once I had a process for it. And as a result, we set amazing records. We were able to cut our advertising in half. We're the only Hyundai store up in a down market 2 consecutive years. My turnover went to about 20% from 90%. And ultimately, I said, this is what I love doing. I've got to do this for a living. So I started on my Tuesday off, I started coaching technology companies. So my first client was Drive-Centric CRM. iRecon Cars was another one. I started landing these tech companies and coaching them. I told the owners, I'm quitting in 1 year. I'm going to replace my income as GSM as a coach. And basically, it took me about 8 months, but I was able to do just that. I left the showroom floor, promoted 7 people under me. They didn't have to hire anyone from outside. And that, my friends, was, for me, one of my greatest accomplishments ever was to know that the people under me were better off and could replace me, just like that. And that's also what I believe led us to create amazing results. The sigmoid curve here, and that's enough about my story, but I want you to understand, guys, I want to help you guys avoid the negative changes and disruption that Barrie was talking about. And I'm on a mission to bring coaching to the car business because I want you to experience the same results that I've had. I want your salespeople to say, hey, you know what? Will you marry me and my fiance on the showroom floor? That is another one of my biggest accomplishments as a manager, as a coach. I want your employees, I want you to be able to go to your manager who's coaching you and for you to want to make your kid or your boss the godfather of your kid. That's the type of relationship you can have with your manager when we coach our employees. So the sigmoid curve, and I didn't invent it, some guy named Mr. Sigmoid must have, but bottom line is this, guys, as we start doing something new, we are not very good at it. Just like when I first started coaching, just like when you first start tying your shoe. You're not very good at it, but you practice over time and you get better. And then we've all heard the saying, if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. Is that true? What about when you look at this? So check this out. The housing market, it did what it was always doing, right? Did they get what they've always gotten? Toys R Us? We're talking about disruption here. Guys, if you do what you've always done, you get less than you've always gotten. What if Black Book, now this book has sentimental value. Do you got any sales managers in here? Any car buyer? Okay. Do you guys remember these things? Now, what if Black Book said, you know what, we're not changing. We're not doing that technology stuff. We're not going to have online Black Books. That's crazy. And they just kept doing this. Would they still be in business, right? So if you do what you've always done, you get less than you've always gotten. At some point, you reach a plateau. How many of you guys are, so we had a fair amount of car salespeople in here. How many of you guys have been selling roughly the same amount of cars today as you were a year ago? Anyone in here? It's okay, don't be ashamed. Most people plateau at a certain area, okay? If you're roughly selling the same amount of cars today than you were 6 months or a year ago, you've reached a plateau. And at some point, if you keep doing what you've always done, you will start going backwards because of the sigmoid curve, because the rest of the world is going to change around you. So everyone else is advancing. People are changing the way they buy cars. Guys, several of the tech companies I consult and coach for, they have artificial intelligence. Man, that sucker's setting appointments for people, right? So we have got to be better as salespeople, as managers. We've got to change the way we lead our people. We've got to change the way we bring people into the car business. We've got to change the way we develop them and keep them in. And we got to change the way we let them out of the business. So that's what this is about. So we are going to discuss, I want you guys to, your takeaways should be understanding the true difference between training and coaching, how to learn internal training best practices, and also learn how and when you should coach versus train. All right? So first, I will share a stat with you. I have hard data that measures what I call new hire profit loss. So after working with a CRM company and seeing all, when someone leaves a dealership, they remove you from the CRM, hypothetically. When you come into the dealership, they enter you in. So if you look at these metrics here, you can see how many ups, and this is, I literally just pulled this like 2 weeks ago and pulled this report out of some random dealership I just started coaching. And so this is how many ups they take. And then this is walk-in traffic, for the record, when I say ups, in case it's a different terminology. This is the closing percentage, okay, of that salesperson for those. This is just like 2 weeks of data, okay? But the reason that I show you this is because 3 of these people are new hires, okay? Look at the volume of opportunity and the closing percentage. Which 3, if you had to guess, which 3 are new hires? Go ahead and say new hire or not. 32 opportunities compared to the next, 9% closing. New hire or veteran? What do you think? New hire probably? Okay, 24 ups and 25% closing. New hire or not? That one's not. This one, don't worry about that. That's someone that just started, literally just started. 18 and 27% veteran. That's a new hire. 51 and 16%, 30%, 17. What you're noticing, the trend you're looking at, and this goes for almost every dealership I coach. New hires generally take about 40% more opportunities, and they close at almost 40% less. And I'm not saying we shouldn't hire people. I'm not saying that. But my point is that turnover costs us a ton of money. And in fact, in this case, the 3 new hires have waited on 99 walk-ins, and the 5 veteran salespeople have only taken 98, right? And their closing is less. So just taking this store's data, just plugging this in here, basically, if they had all veterans, they would have sold 81 cars, okay? But because of the situation they're in, 55 cars. And that is 26 lost sales as a result of turnover or putting new people on the team. And that doesn't matter if they're a green pea or brand new sales, new to the car business, or they came from another dealership. I found that there's very little difference there. And that's because of the cultural differences. So they're also intangible profit loss, all right? How many, oh my gosh. For managers, it's so frustrating when our salespeople say things like, oh, more new hires, they're flooding the floor. Anyone heard the saying, they'll hire anyone with a pulse? Anyone said or heard that or said it? Guys, that creates stress whenever we hire people. So intangible profit loss. In addition to the lost sales, we have customer retention, lower customer retention. Managers spend a lot of time onboarding office staff. Those poor office people have to do all the paperwork to stock in a salesperson. Damaged external brand. When someone quits, like Barrie was talking about earlier, when someone leaves your dealership, they're not going to be talking good about your dealership if they leave on negative terms, right? Community reputation, stressful for all employees, potential legal complaints, lower survey scores, damaged internal brand. Guys, we all know that a new salesperson can't provide they don't have the level of product knowledge and can't provide the level of support necessary. So understanding that turnover was one of my biggest challenges that I wanted to tackle, and in doing so with coaching, I was able to lower that. So I'm going to share with you guys how to do it. And I also want you to understand how coaching affects performance. And guys, if you're a salesperson and you're not receiving coaching, that you've got invest in yourself. I don't care if it's with me, just hire. I just hired my second coach, and I didn't fire my first one. I just hired my second coach 2 days ago because I want to invest more in myself. But an employee motivated, there are 10 things that motivate employees. Number 1, am I valued? Does my manager care about me? Number 2, am I appreciated? Am I recognized? Like literally, do I get recognized for doing a good job? Do I have a purpose? Is what I'm doing actually fulfilling for me? Do I feel good about what I do? I'll never forget as a manager when my purpose was about the money. for so long as a salesman, I was like, I got to become a manager. That was my purpose. Then I became the manager, and my purpose was money related, and it was just I was going through the motions every day. Then I was like, you know what? I promoted someone, and it felt so good. I was like, that's my new mission. That's my new purpose, is to promote people, move people up. All of a sudden, my drive went through the roof. I was coaching a salesperson in Kentucky a few weeks ago, and literally his boss like, please get him to be motivated, Sean. I'm like, okay, I'll try my best, you know. So I sat down with this fellow, really nice guy, and he had a basically, I was like, what motivates you? He's like, well, you know, when I go outside and it's rainy or it's cold, and then I just want to go inside and sit down. He sells 10 cars a month. I'm like, so is it the money that motivates you? He's like, nah, I live with my dad. I'm like, well, what drives you? What are you passionate about? And he's like, cancer. I was like, tell me more about that. And then he tells me that he had lost his one of his parents, his mom, to cancer, his grandparents to cancer, and one of his siblings. So for him, that's a big deal. I said, well, what do you do for cancer research? And he's like, well, I do a lot of charity bike ride event and things like that. And ultimately, I said, well, what if you sold cars for cancer? And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you only need to make $3,000. So what if every dollar you made over $3,000, you gave half of it to cancer research? And he started doing that. So instantly, the next month, he doubled his sales. Never went backwards. Started making social media posts. So purpose is something that motivates people. Fulfillment. Are we skilling up? Are we mastering new skills? Are we independent? Can we make our own choices, or do we feel like we're micromanaged by our managers? Are we developing in our career? Can we move onward and upward in our career at the pace we want to move? Team cohesion. Are we part of a team that's all working together to accomplish a common objective? Is work fun? Man, if you don't make work at the dealership fun, people are going to find a way to make it fun. I had a dealer principal I was coaching, and he came to me so mad. He's like, Sean, I was just down there and I saw those guys playing Jenga. You guys have Jenga up here, the little blocks of wood? Okay. He's like, I saw the salespeople in one of the parts offices playing Jenga. I mean, during the workday, what the heck? I go, well, how many hours a day do they work? He's like, 12. I'm like, okay, so they should not have fun for 12 hours? I'm like, that's really nice of you. He's like, good point. But I was like, well, what if you make work intentionally fun? Like go down there and have Jenga time. Like you schedule, like just go down. So he ended up getting he's like, that's a good idea. So he got those little the bigger version of it with the 2x4s. So now he goes through his dealership, he plays a little Jenga game with his team intentionally, and then afterwards it's 20, 30 minutes of fun. He's like, get back to work. Though I'm telling you, they run to the phones, they do 2 to 3 times the calls that day because you got to make work fun. Leader, do I have a leader to model after? The 3 C's of leadership, someone who is character, competence, and cares about me. And then finally, competition. Is there healthy competition? So that's an actual picture. I don't look like that anymore. I wish I did. It was pretty awesome. But bottom line, I show you this picture because in the Army, we had, which one's me? That right there. I'm just joking. Him right there. So when I was in the Army, we had objectives, we had missions. I think in the car business, we just kind of go about our day. Our only objective at any given time is to do what? Sell a car, right? Sell a car. I think we need objectives, focused intent in anything we do. So when you hire someone, what are your objectives? Managers, when I ask them that, I hear the same thing. Throw it against the wall and see if they stick, right? Let's throw them against the wall, see if they stick. Well, I want to share 3 better hiring objectives with you. What if objective number 1 was to ensure every new employee or new to role employees have a solid foundation for success? Objective number 2, ensure your employees or new to role employees are aligned to a mutually agreed upon ramp up time. Okay, meaning competency and they know where they need to be and by when they need to be there. And thirdly, all employees receive ongoing development so they continue to grow forever. I know that sounds crazy. We start selling enough cars and right, we're good enough. Leave that guy alone. They sell enough cars. We always leave them alone. So that's something. So what if those were the 3 objectives anytime you bring someone into your company? What new possibilities would you create? So I'm going to talk about onboarding very briefly. Onboarding is like the foundation of a house. All right? You saw the slide. The onboarding is, bottom line is this, a house built on a foundation of sand will not stand. Safe to say? Onboarding is like a foundation for the employee. So what can we do for onboarding? Guys, you just met me. I don't know you, right? Correct? I don't know either of you guys. I have a van outside. Get in it. We're going somewhere. Are you in?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, we got some you're Jason's friends. I should have known. The bottom line is this, guys. We need to build trust with our... It's my favorite slide. I use it in like half my slideshows, even if it doesn't fit in. I'm like, by the way, there's this slide. But guys, what builds trust? We need our employees to trust us. So one of the best ways we can do it is tell them where the van's going and why it's going there. right? That way, just like Barrie was talking about, are we aligned to the direction of the company? Have the cultural vision. This is an actual cultural vision. One of the things that my company does is, bottom line is this, how do we get you to a destination if you don't know where you want to go? So the cultural vision or the company vision is like your vision for success. This is where we're trying to go. Because ultimately, if we start with the end in mind, we know the destination, now we know who we need to surround ourselves with. And who should we? The people that want to go to the same place we're going. So that's critical to building, to onboarding, is sharing that vision with the people you're hiring before you hire them. And then also is having clear expectations. Are your expectations written down, and are they clear and concise? This is a used car manager expectation sheet. It's 6 pages long, and every single one of them needs to be initialed off, signed off on, and trained on before they promote someone in that role. Also, make sure they fit into the culture of the dealership. You know, if it's fun, he was middle fingering, Zach there was middle fingering me. That was back as a GSM. But we just had one of our record months there. It was awesome. Also, helping them understand the lay of the land at your dealership. When someone comes into your store, guys, you know, it's the little things that add up. There's a saying, as it starts is as it goes. So what if you brought someone in the company and showed them where the copy paper was? Like, what if that was part of the process, right? What if they had to do a scavenger hunt to find all the little things that they're going to come up to the manager and ask directions for? You know, so an onboarding process that lasts 30 to 90 days, that covers all the little nuances. That way, at the end of that time, right, they're ready to rock, okay? Now, onboarding is the foundation, and then once you've got that foundation, you get a nice house, then you get this shiny car. Shiny cars look great. Training is critical, and part of what we do a lot of training. But I think training in the auto industry is challenged, and I'll tell you why. Because number one, managers aren't trained on how to train people, and there's a skill set required for that. And number two, you got a lot of outside trainers, right? And they say, hey, here's my software platform, buy this, and you can take the training. But it's not necessarily real and relevant to your dealership, and the managers don't take it. And as a result, it never becomes indoctrinated into the DNA of your store. So one of the things, internal training best practices is what I'm going to share with you guys today. Who should I be training? Who should we train? So obviously, new hires that finish onboarding. Train salespeople how to sell cars. Number two, anyone you're grooming for a promotion. Did anyone receive training before they were promoted for the job they're going to be in here? Very important, man. That way, when you hit the ground in that role, you hit the ground running. It sets you up for success. Anytime you have one person deep in a critical role. I deal with dealers. I hear this at dealers all the time when we do our cultural assessments. Hey, we only have one dealer trade person. We only have one car appraiser. Train someone else to back them up. Get that person ready for the next role in the organization. Anyone new in a role with your store, also on any and all growth areas. Guys, if you focus on everything, then what's important? What are you focusing on at your dealership? What are you focusing on as a salesperson? Where are you growing? What is your focus? You need to pick something and laser focus on it for at least 90 days so the things become habits, okay? And that's where you would conduct your training on that growth area. Like I'm working with this Mercedes store on phones, and everything we're doing is about phones. It's phone coaching, it's phone training, it's phone mystery shopping, and over 9 days, they've gone up about 20% on phone closing percentage, and literally they're 10% ahead of where they were aiming to be by this point. And we're gonna pick a new one at 90 days. So what should I train on? Sales processes and best practices. How many of you guys get sales training? This is what you should say. Pretty much everyone gets that, right? So here's some of the things you probably may not be getting. Actually, raise your hand if you receive that type of, please, everyone raise their hand if you get sales training. Okay, I want to see, okay. And then what about on software and tools? Raise your hand if you get on on your CRM, video stuff, okay. What about how to train and coach? Is anyone getting training on that? Okay, fewer. Leadership development, how to manage and lead a team, okay. A little bit less even. Soft skills, how to communicate effectively, how to have difficult conversations, okay. Awesome. And then also cross-department training. Almost no one does this. Can your parts people come up and sell a car? Can your sales people go back and help with write an RO? These are opportunities. So managers' skill transfer process. If I threw you in an airplane and said, hey, go fly it, how successful would you be? Not very, right? So how can we make sure that we are setting our people up for success? Managers, if you're receiving training, here's how it needs to happen, salespeople, and managers for giving it. It's just like teaching someone how to drive a stick shift. Anyone in here know how to drive a stick shift? Okay, pretty much everyone, okay. So if you were gonna teach me to drive a stick shift, I don't know how, what would that look like? What would step one be? Okay.
before you start the car.
Okay, so you would have me driving it first?
No, that's a good point.
Okay.
I would show you how to drive first.
Okay, so you would drive it first.
Yeah.
And then while you were driving it, what would you do?
So I lay out the obvious areas of here's the clutch and here's me shifting gears.
Okay, so you'd tell me how to drive it. Okay, and then what would be the last step?
I would get you in the car and go around the parking lot and slowly, get you into shifting gears.
Awesome. It's that simple, guys. The same things that we try to teach, that we need to teach our employees to do, and our coworkers to do, and even our managers to do, are the same. It's just like teaching someone to drive a stick shift. Tell them how to do it, show them how to do it, and then finally watch them doing it and see if they kill it. We can't just tell people how to drive a stick shift and then expect them to go be able to drive a stick shift anymore. And that's that's a simple skill transfer process. And if you do that every single time, I loved what Kyle said earlier. He said, yeah, I train them on phone stuff, then I listen to their calls, and I'm like, awesome, he's teaching them how to drive a stick shift, right? So that's an easy skill transfer process. But best practices, okay, how should you be training? It should be carved out, classroom setting, skill assessments before, shadow team leaders. How many guys have team leaders at your dealership? Anyone? Man, team leaders, having that employee, that's who you're grooming for the next line of leadership. Team leaders can take on this role, and they should do it without extra pay because they're learning to lead people, all right? And you're learning to help people get better. Your success can be judged by how well you groom someone that's shadowing you. Strengths-based training. When you're assessing people consistently, you find out who's good and who's challenged in key areas, right? And if I find out that you're really good on the internet, then I could say, you know what, would you teach a class on the internet once a month for the entire dealership? Ultimately, as a manager, I don't have to do it all if I delegate that out. Desired training for current employees. Who wants training? Bottom line, if I asked each of you guys, write down one area where you want training, how many different answers do you think we'd be just in this room here? A lot of different answers. Would you guys agree with that? So, but where do we get our topics for training? Who decides what we're going to train on? What did you say? Yeah, the managers are like, this is where you need training. Let's do it. And everyone, and I'm not saying that, like I said, group approach is okay, but ask your people. If 1/3 of this classroom says, hey, I want training in how to ask for the sale or overcoming objections, that would be the class. And what's the level of buy-in for that class if that's where they want the training, right? If they want it there, they'll listen to you there. Whereas if I just try to cram it down your throat, you might not like it. Also, need training for everyone. Managers can also decide, but everyone should go through. You should have a curriculum that everyone should go through. And then ultimately, there should be content, and it shouldn't just be me talking in a classroom. There should be content materials and even job aids or scorecards, right? So it's not just a real subjective approach. Benefits to involving the team. If you involve, like if you take your team leaders, the salespeople that are really good in key areas, your BDC people training on internet stuff, your social media guy training on social media, it will make that person better because when we train someone on something, we get better, right? Another thing too, it'll bind the team. If I help onboard and train someone as a salesperson, I now have a vested interest in their success, right? And now there's more than one person looking out for that salesperson. Help identify and cultivate the next leaders. Employees get multiple perspectives. Man, if as a manager, I can only say how I do it a certain amount of times, right? So salespeople, we all get tired of hearing the same thing. So ultimately, when someone else, if hearing another perspective can go a long way in helping someone learn in a new key area. Another thing too, when you train someone, it meets certain employee motivation requirements, right? These here, so they're feeling valued because we're investing in training, whether it's the manager's time or an outside training. Does it help them feel appreciated or recognized? Does it help them find purpose? Not really. Does it help them skill up? 100%. Does it make them more autonomous? It can. Does it help people develop and move up in their career? Absolutely. Becoming better and more skilled certainly does. Does training help with team cohesion? It can if you do it, internally. Is it fun? Training should and can be fun. Does it help does it show the leader is competent and cares? I would say yes. And then does it create healthy competition? Not so much. Why should you test on training? So this is the reason. Can I do it? If we don't test on training, we never find out if they really can do it. And if we don't know if someone can do it or not, how will we know? Usually we find out after the results come in. But by the time the results are in, we've already lost the sales, it's too late, right? So test for competency up front. But what training does not accomplish, my friends, is this. Do they want to do it? Do they need to do it? And will they do it? Training only covers that one, whereas coaching gets these, all right? So if training is the shiny car, coaching is the fuel that makes it go. So I really believe this time and time again. If I was a 20-car salesperson and got promoted into management, I cannot train a 30-car salesperson to sell 40 cars a month, but I can coach them there. It's that simple. I can coach them there, and that's the only way to take your middle of the road or average, the salespeople that have plateaued, or even your top producers. I don't care if you're a 50-car salesperson, if you only sell 50 cars a month and you've been doing it consistently for 6 months, you've reached a plateau. You've stopped growing, right? You need to make a change. So coaching, who should I coach? Let me run you through the list. Anyone that's been tested for competency in training, once they have the foundation of training, now we can start coaching them. Middle of the road top producers, anyone wanting a promotion. This is, by the way, so important, guys. This was huge in me growing my dealership sales and results, because think about this. Would you rather see a 20% increase from a 10-car salesperson, if you're a leader, right? Or would you rather see a 20% increase of a 20-car salesperson? It's 2 extra cars, it's twice the cars. So coaching is where you can take these guys and make them better. Whereas when they go to training, what do they always say? I have 1 or 2 takeaways. They always say, I like training, I always take one thing away. After 2 days, you take one thing away, are you kidding me? So that's where coaching will really help them. Anyone who's wanting to move up needs coaching, all right? Bottom performers, coach them up, or, I forgot to take that out. I got rid of coach out. I don't believe in that anymore. Okay, so all leadership, I'm not kidding. Because I don't want coaching to get a bad name, and it really, sometimes it does have a bad name because of, I'm coaching you, but really I'm just yelling at you, right? So all leadership within the organization, every leader, it's lonely at the top, man. And I don't care if you're a dealer principal or you're a porter, every single person needs coaching, because it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle, and you guys are in the bottle every single day. You're on the field playing to win. You need a third-party perspective that's not attached to the outcome to have a conversation with you. Every pro athlete has a coach. All right, so here's how you can roll it out, okay? This is the Car Motivators drip method. So first, discover what every employee wants most. The best way to motivate someone is by connecting the dots on what they want most and what you need them to do. So for instance, my friend Matt, the cancer research, great opportunity. Hey Matt, what if you could donate to cancer and make a difference because you sold a bunch of cars? All of a sudden, the guy who's one of the top closers but doesn't want to get out and wait on anyone because he's unmotivated now has motivation, right? So if you can connect the dots on what someone wants most to what they need to do, then you can, and I'll share another story with that in a minute. So number 2, recruit everyone to the cause. You can't win a war with a one-man army, and within 15 seconds of any conversation, someone's going to decide, are they fighting along with you or are they fighting against you? So how do we recruit someone to our conversation where there's total buy-in and they're on our side? This is how. It's really, really easy. Number 1, know what they want most. What do you want most in the next 12 months? What would make your career awesome for you if it happened?
A bigger role.
Okay, so move up in the company. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. If I was going to coach my friend, and what was your name?
Warren.
Warren, awesome, Warren. So if I was going to coach my friend Warren here, I'd say, Warren, what I want for you is to see you move into a bigger role in your organization, and there's a few ways I think we can help you get there. Is now a good time to have that conversation, or when would you want to?
Always a good time to have that.
He wants to have this conversation. Really, I'm going to train him on how to handle internet leads. He does I'm just joking. But you see what I'm saying? Because does helping Warren handle internet leads help him get a bigger role in the company? Absolutely it does. Because if he can handle internet leads, he's going to be a better, I'm not saying you need that, but at the end of the day, recruit them to the cause by telling them what you want for them. Individually set expectations around coaching. Everyone wants to be coached differently. I can't coach Warren the same way I'd coach Kyle, the same way I'd coach Jason. Or Arthur. Where's Arthur? Where's that? Oh, there he is back there. What's up, buddy? I know Arthur. I do have some Canadian friends, for the record. Probably not after this, but I'm just joking. All right, so individually set expectations around coaching. How often would you, what if we asked every person, hey, how often would you want to sit down with your manager? How often would you want to have a one-on-one? What would you hope to accomplish in our one-on-ones? How can I help your career? What if your manager sat down and asked you those questions? How many of you guys would enjoy that? Anyone in here would enjoy that? I haven't yet met a salesperson that doesn't want that for you managers. Finally, P, persist in making a priority and scheduling it. And this is where that one man deep in critical positions. Of course, there's no time for you to coach people when you're the only person in the role, right? So if we're developing the people under us, if we're training people for the next role, then I can say, you know what, Warren, I'm preparing you for the next role because you're going to grow within this organization, and I want to make sure we help others do the same. Can you watch the desk for me and go ahead and do that while I go and coach some people? Are you excited to do that?
Absolutely.
Are you going to try to prove yourself and knock it out of the park for me?
Absolutely.
And now I'm making my people better? Did my life just get easier as a manager or what? Right? And by the way, when you go back on the floor, are you running laps around people now? You're like, think about that. I don't even know what position you are. All right, so 3 types. He could be like a GSM and he wants to be a GM, I don't know. But anyway, so 3 types of coaching, all right? There's aspirational coaching. So this is something that I created. Aspirational coaching is not as the coach, it's not ever your agenda, it's always their agenda. So what I mean by that is I would sit down and I'd say, hey, where can I coach you today? How can I help you? All right, there is turnaround coaching where we're going to coach up underperformers. And then there is objective-based coaching. I call it ABC metric coaching. So this one will help you make smart firing decisions and feel good. That, as a manager, I would hold on to people. Barry, you're going to slap me for this. As a young manager before coaching, I would hold on to people. They're going to turn around any day now. But month after month after month, they were costing us business. They weren't happy. They weren't aligned to the direction of the company. This helps you make smart firing decisions. This creates massive motivation, and this one helps you improve performance in key areas. So to touch on each of these, discover what people want most. Recruit them to the conversation. Remember, this is aspirational coaching. It's the coachee's agenda, not yours. All right? You cannot be attached to the outcome. You need to inquire. Everyone has, I believe that everyone in this room, think of your biggest goal, your biggest challenge. You have 97% of the answers to accomplish that goal or overcome that challenge. You have 97% of the answers, but it's the 3% you don't have that are holding you back, right? So when we're doing aspirational coaching, you are going to ask them at least 7 questions, and you're going to aim to find out which 3 puzzle pieces they're missing. And that's the value you add. That's why coaching, every conversation is a 100% value add, because I'm always giving you puzzle pieces that you don't have. But you have to ask the questions to find out what puzzle pieces they do have first. Does that make sense? So it's not coaching unless you ask at least 7 questions. Verify the value, what you're going to educate them with, that they don't have it or know it, that they haven't tried it, and then co-create an action plan. It's all about the collaboration. It's not me telling you what you're going to do, yelling, telling, and selling anymore. It's me saying, okay, so after this conversation, what are your biggest takeaways? What's changed moving forward? What are you going to do? What's your action plan? When will you start doing that by? When should I check in on you? How can I support you? These are all accountability questions, right? Co-create the action plan, confirm the value of coaching, care for the plan long term. With metric coaching, we're going to assess the data, look for the biggest opportunities, get the buy-in around the conversations with recruitment, and then we're going to, again, co-create action plans. These are all different processes that need to be part of your management leadership routine. And if they're not, my friends, you're missing the boat big time. This is turnaround coaching, all right? So this was my process for it. It takes, basically it lasts 4 weeks. But number 1, sit down with the person who's underperforming, ask them, hey, do you want to work here or not? Because maybe they don't want to work for you, and that's okay. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just reality. So if they don't want to be on the team, then let's end it now. But what if they want to be there? Well, I'm attend to keeping you if you're attend to staying. So I'm going to recruit you to the conversation. All right. I'm going to commit. We're going to sit down once a week for the next month, and we're going to talk about your expectations. We're going to check in. We're going to make sure that you're meeting the expectations and doing what it takes to achieve the results. We're going to sit, and then at the end of the month, at the end of 30 days, we're either going to shake hands and part ways as friends, knowing it's just not a good fit, or we're going to party and celebrate that you're still on the team. I found that you can take 60, last I checked, it was 64%. 64% of underperformers can be turned around in 30 days using this process. And the other 38%, they leave on good terms with documented, tracked opportunities for them to turn around. So it's never a bad break when you do this. So those are the 3 different types of coaching, just at a real high level, okay? And my company conducts thousands of those with dealers across South America every single year, and tech companies too. And do's, so here are some do's, okay? Ask at least 7 questions before adding value. Schedule the next coaching conversation right then. Schedule the check-in. Hey, when should I check in on that on your progress? There's got to be follow-up and accountability. There's got to be a check-in, or the chance of them doing it is unlikely. Clarify accountability measures and rules of engagement. Hey, if you're failing, if you're not following through, how do you want me to approach you in a positive, supportive way rather than negative? What if we asked our employees that? They give us permission on how to approach them. Then it's never an awkward challenging conversation. And then track all coaching wins. Guys, that's the best part about the follow-up and the next coaching session, because when you sit down for the next coaching session and I'm like, Kyle, what'd you do? And Kyle's like, man, I sat down with my salespeople and I recruited them to the conversations and I got the buy-in, and then they actually followed through. I'm gonna be like, pow, coaching win. Kyle got his sales team to use the scripts he talked about with them. I'm just making up examples here. Give yourself permission to learn something new. You're gonna screw up coaching when you first started, just like when you first tie your shoe or try to fly a plane. That's okay. Give yourself permission to fail. This is a list of just a bunch of coaching wins. This dealership has an $872 per car. Track your coaching wins, measure them. That's how you show an ROI on your efforts. Coaching don'ts. This is the most important thing. Do not, please guys, write this down. Whatever you do when it comes to coaching, do not under any circumstance try to coach your wife. It does not work. My wife, she's like, you're doing your coaching crap on me. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, honey. Don't do that. But seriously, don't use coaching to punish people. Don't call it coaching if it's negative, because coaching is lifting people up. Coaching is taking to the next level. Don't make it your agenda. Make it theirs. All right? Don't skip steps in the coaching process. When someone has a limiting belief that's holding them back, don't try to fight them on it. Right? Internet leads are bad. Oh man, Jason, he just cringed when I said that. But when what's a manager's first inclination when they hear that? They go on the attack. What do you mean internet leads are bad? They're opportunity. You can't convince someone you're fighting against them. You're not going to win them over unless you kill them, right? That's not winning really. So motivation requirements met by coaching, all of them. If we coach our people, you will meet motivation requirements, and as a result, your turnover will go down to almost zero, and people will run through brick walls to achieve results. All right? So where should I start? Number one, read about coaching. I will be done on time, I promise. Number one, read about coaching, guys. My favorite, my coach's book, Coaching Salespeople and the Sales Champions. I've got one coming out within the next, 12 months or so. Coaching Salespeople and the Sales Champions, great book. Read about coaching, that's what I did. Use the DRIP method outlined in this presentation to implement it. I've actually got a coaching recruitment letter, the one that I use to roll it out at my dealership, and I'm happy to share that with you guys if it's something you'd want to roll out at yours. Number three, hire a coach. Seriously, hire a coach. And if you're going to hire a coach, then you should certainly think about hiring one that's, been number one in the region and every month and was the only coach up. I'm just joking. I had to, James. That's just a joke. Only store up in a down market. Joking. But seriously, but for me, honestly, it's not about what I did. It's about what they do. As a coach, my success, and this goes for managers as well. You're not tied to your own success here. As a leader, you're tied to the success of others. All right. So for me, when you make someone else have a record month, when you make a salesperson move up in their organization, or you help someone change someone's life for the better, now you're doing your job as a leader, and you can accomplish that through coaching for no matter who they are, how long they've been in the business. It doesn't matter. So one thing, remember I said in the beginning, I said, it's hard to find good people, right? Guys, stop looking for good people, all right? If you're a manager, you guys, you already have good people. They're on your showroom floor. It's up to you to develop them. It's that simple. All right, guys? This is John Kelley, the Car Biz Coach. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you. It's an honor to be up here. And here's contact information. You guys feel free to text me or email me anytime.
Will you make it available to them, the deck?
Absolutely,
So,
100%.
Hopefully we're connected with LinkedIn with Sean. So first of all, again, huge, he came up from St. Louis.
No big deal. I'll do it anytime.